Jake Coleman stood at the gas pump at 6:30 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, calculating in his head whether he could afford to fill his aging Honda Civic's tank or if he should settle for the $10 that would get him through the rest of the week until his next paycheck arrived. At 38, Jake had become an expert at these kinds of financial calculations, the result of 3 years of single parenthood that had transformed him from a carefree bachelor into a man who counted every penny and planned every expense around his 7-year-old daughter Emma's needs. The divorce had been brutal, both emotionally and financially, leaving Jake with primary custody of Emma and a stack of legal bills that had depleted his savings and forced him to downsize from their comfortable suburban home to a small apartment in a working-class neighborhood outside Phoenix. His ex-wife had relocated to California for a fresh start, maintaining minimal contact with Emma and providing sporadic child support that Jake had learned not to depend on for monthly budgeting. Jake's job as a maintenance supervisor at a local community college provided steady employment, but modest pay that barely covered rent, utilities, groceries, and the countless expenses that came with raising a child. Emma's after-school care, occasional medical visits, and the basic necessities of childhood stretched Jake's budget to its absolute limits, leaving no room for emergencies or unexpected expenses that could destabilize their carefully balanced finances. Despite the financial stress, Jake had found unexpected fulfillment in single parenthood that surprised him with its depth and meaning. Emma's laughter, her excitement about school projects, and their quiet evenings together had given Jake a sense of purpose that his previous career-focused lifestyle had lacked. The responsibility of being her sole provider and protector had revealed strengths and capabilities that Jake hadn't known he possessed. The morning routine that brought Jake to the gas station was precisely choreographed to maximize efficiency and minimize cost. He would drop Emma at school before heading to work, timing the trip to avoid rush-hour traffic that wasted gas, and stopping for fuel only when absolutely necessary. Every aspect of their lives had been optimized for financial survival. But Jake took pride in maintaining stability and security for Emma, despite their limited resources. As Jake pumped gas into his Honda, calculating whether he could afford the extra $2 to reach a full tank, he was completely unaware that his life was about to intersect with someone whose resources could solve all of his financial problems in an instant. The woman standing beside the luxury Mercedes sedan at the adjacent pump appeared to be having the kind of problem that Jake had experienced countless times. Her credit card was being repeatedly declined, and her increasing frustration suggested someone unaccustomed to financial inconvenience. She was well-dressed in business attire that suggested professional success, but her obvious distress at being unable to purchase gas created a situation that Jake's instinctive helpfulness couldn't ignore. Jake observed the woman's situation while finishing his own transaction, noting details that suggested she was probably a professional traveling for business who had encountered some kind of temporary banking issue. Her expensive clothing, luxury vehicle, and obvious surprise at the card decline indicated someone whose financial resources normally made such problems impossible, but who was currently facing the kind of inconvenience that Jake dealt with regularly. The woman's attempts to resolve the payment issue included multiple phone calls that appeared to be unsuccessful, creating a situation where she was genuinely stranded despite obviously having access to significant resources under normal circumstances. Her body language showed the kind of helpless frustration that comes from being unable to solve a problem through the usual methods, and Jake recognized the anxiety that accompanied unexpected financial obstacles. Jake's decision to intervene was motivated by the same instinctive kindness that had characterized his parenting approach and his interactions with colleagues and neighbors. His own experience with financial uncertainty had taught him that temporary problems could become serious crises without assistance, and he understood the stress and embarrassment that accompanied being unable to afford basic necessities. Approaching the woman required overcoming Jake's natural shyness and his awareness that his worn work clothes and modest vehicle made him an unlikely source of assistance for someone driving a Mercedes. However, His experience as a single father had taught him that pride was a luxury he couldn't afford when practical help was needed, and he suspected that the same principle might apply to the stranded stranger. The woman's name was Catherine, and her gratitude for Jake's offer to help pay for her gas was immediately apparent, despite her obvious embarrassment at needing assistance from someone whose circumstances appeared far more modest than her own. Her acceptance of his help was gracious but reluctant, suggesting someone unaccustomed to depending on others, but recognizing that her immediate situation required swallowing pride and accepting kindness from an unexpected source. Jake's offer to pay for Catherine's gas required him to make a split-second decision about spending money that he couldn't really afford on behalf of someone he didn't know. The $47 needed to fill her Mercedes tank represented nearly a full day's worth of his carefully budgeted daily expenses, money that would normally be allocated for groceries or Emma's lunch money for the remainder of the week. However, Jake's experience with financial hardship had taught him that temporary kindness could make the difference between a minor inconvenience and a serious crisis, and his moral compass wouldn't allow him to ignore someone's distress simply because helping them would create personal inconvenience. His decision reflected the values he was trying to instill in Emma, that helping others was more important than protecting personal resources, and that kindness was a responsibility rather than an option. The transaction was completed quickly, with Jake using his debit card to pay for Catherine's gas while deflecting her attempts to obtain his contact information for reimbursement. His motivation wasn't recognition or repayment, but simply the satisfaction that came from solving someone's immediate problem, and he was genuinely uncomfortable with Catherine's offers to compensate him for his assistance. Catherine's obvious surprise at Jake's refusal to accept reimbursement information suggested someone unaccustomed to kindness without expectation of return, and her repeated attempts to find ways to thank him indicated that his gesture had meant more to her than he realized. Jake's insistence that no repayment was necessary reflected his understanding that genuine kindness couldn't be transactional, and that the satisfaction of helping someone was sufficient compensation for his modest sacrifice. The brief conversation that accompanied the transaction revealed that Catherine was indeed traveling for business and had encountered some kind of banking issue that had temporarily frozen her credit cards. Jake's assistance had prevented her from missing important meetings and potentially damaging professional relationships, making his $47 gesture far more valuable than its modest cost suggested. As Catherine drove away from the gas station, Jake felt the quiet satisfaction that came from doing the right thing, despite personal cost, completely unaware that his simple act of kindness had been witnessed by someone whose resources could transform his life in ways he couldn't imagine. His focus returned immediately to his own responsibilities, getting to work on time and maintaining the careful financial balance that kept his small family stable and secure. What Jake didn't know about the woman he had helped was that Catherine Morrison was one of the most successful venture capitalists in America, founder and managing partner of Morrison Capital, a firm that controlled over $15 billion in assets and had funded some of the most successful technology companies of the past decade. At 45, Catherine had built her fortune through brilliant investment decisions, strategic thinking, and an almost supernatural ability to identify promising entrepreneurs before their potential became obvious to competitors. Catherine's success had been achieved through a combination of exceptional intelligence, relentless work ethic, and careful cultivation of relationships throughout the business and technology communities. Her reputation for identifying and nurturing breakthrough companies had made her one of the most sought-after investors in Silicon Valley, and her personal wealth had grown to over $3 billion through successful exits and strategic investments. The banking issue that had stranded Catherine at the gas station was the result of heightened security measures triggered by her unusual travel patterns, rather than any genuine financial problem. Her credit cards had been temporarily frozen by fraud protection algorithms that couldn't reconcile her presence in Phoenix with her usual geographic patterns, creating the kind of inconvenience that wealthy people rarely experienced, but that had made Jake's assistance genuinely necessary. Catherine's business in Phoenix involved evaluating a potential investment in a renewable energy startup that could represent a significant expansion of her portfolio into environmental technology. The meetings she had nearly missed due to her payment problems were worth potentially hundreds of millions of dollars in future returns, making Jake's $47 assistance far more consequential than either of them had realized at the time. However, the financial value of Jake's help was less significant to Catherine than the psychological impact of encountering genuine kindness from someone who appeared to have far less than she did. Her wealth had insulated her from most forms of ordinary human interaction, and her business success had surrounded her with people whose motivations were usually connected to her ability to provide funding or business opportunities. Jake's refusal to accept reimbursement or contact information had demonstrated a kind of selfless generosity that Catherine rarely encountered in her professional world, where every interaction was typically calculated to produce some kind of mutual benefit. His willingness to help a stranger without expectation of return had reminded Catherine of values and relationships that her business success had sometimes obscured or complicated. Catherine's encounter with Jake had made such an impression that she found herself thinking about him throughout her business meetings in Phoenix, distracted by questions about his circumstances and motivations that she couldn't easily dismiss. Her success in venture capital had been built partly on her ability to read people and identify character traits that predicted success, and Jake's behavior had displayed qualities that impressed her more than most business presentations she evaluated. Using resources available to someone with her connections and influence, Catherine began a discreet investigation into Jake's background and circumstances, motivated by curiosity about the man who had helped her, and by a growing sense that his story might represent something meaningful beyond their brief encounter. Her approach was careful and respectful, designed to learn about Jake without invading his privacy or creating complications for his life. The investigation revealed Jake's recent divorce, his struggles as a single father, and his financial circumstances that made his $47 gesture far more significant than Catherine had initially realized. Learning that Jake had helped her despite his own limited resources transformed her understanding of his kindness from a casual good deed into a substantial personal sacrifice that demonstrated exceptional character. Catherine also learned about Jake's work history, his reputation among colleagues and neighbors as someone who could be counted on to help others, and his devotion to his daughter Emma that had impressed teachers, coaches, and other parents in their community. The picture that emerged was of someone whose values and character had remained intact despite personal challenges that might have made others bitter or self-focused. More intriguingly, Catherine's business instincts recognized in Jake the kind of integrity, work ethic, and natural leadership that she had learned to identify in successful entrepreneurs. His ability to maintain stability and positivity while managing complex challenges suggested capabilities that might be underutilized in his current circumstances and that could be valuable in different contexts. Catherine's investigation also revealed Jake's educational background and previous work experience that indicated intelligence and adaptability that circumstances had prevented him from fully developing. His situation appeared to be the result of bad luck and personal setbacks rather than lack of capability or ambition, making him exactly the kind of person that Catherine's philanthropic instincts were designed to assist. The challenge Catherine faced was finding a way to help Jake without creating embarrassment or obligation that might interfere with his pride and independence, qualities that had impressed her during their brief encounter and that she didn't want her assistance to undermine. Catherine's approach to helping Jake required the same strategic thinking and careful planning that had made her successful in venture capital. Her goal was to create opportunities that would allow Jake to improve his circumstances through his own efforts and abilities, rather than simple charity that might undermine his dignity or create dependence on her resources. The solution Catherine developed involved creating a legitimate job opportunity that would utilize Jake's skills while providing compensation and benefits that could dramatically improve his and Emma's quality of life. Using her network of portfolio companies and business contacts, Catherine identified a facilities management position at one of her technology investments that would be perfect for someone with Jake's background and character. The position offered a substantial salary increase, comprehensive health insurance, education benefits that could help Jake advance his career, and flexible scheduling that would accommodate his responsibilities as a single father. More importantly, the job would provide Jake with exposure to the technology industry and opportunities for professional development that could open doors to even better positions in the future. Catherine's challenge was arranging for Jake to learn about the opportunity in a way that would seem natural rather than suspicious, ensuring that he would never connect the job offer to their gas station encounter or suspect that his potential employer had any knowledge of his personal circumstances. Her solution involved having the position posted through normal channels while ensuring that Jake would become aware of it through seemingly coincidental circumstances. The execution of Catherine's plan required coordination with multiple parties and careful timing to ensure that every aspect appeared genuine and unconnected to her involvement. Her experience in orchestrating complex business deals proved invaluable in creating a scenario where Jake would discover an opportunity that seemed too good to be true, but was actually carefully designed to match his specific needs and qualifications. Catherine also arranged for character references and endorsements that would support Jake's application without revealing her role in identifying him as a candidate. Her network included people who could legitimately vouch for Jake's abilities based on his current work and community involvement, creating an application package that would stand out for all the right reasons. The anticipation Catherine felt while waiting to see whether Jake would pursue the opportunity was more intense than she had experienced during many business deals worth millions of dollars, reflecting her personal investment in his success and her hope that her intervention would create positive change in his life. Jake's discovery of the facilities management position at Meridian Technologies came through exactly the kind of coincidental circumstances that Catherine had orchestrated, with a colleague at the community college mentioning that one of his former supervisors had recommended Jake for a position that offered significantly better compensation and benefits than his current job. The initial phone screening with Meridian's Human Resources Department went exceptionally well, with Jake's experience, references, and obvious enthusiasm for the opportunity creating exactly the positive impression that Catherine had anticipated. His natural honesty, practical problem-solving approach, and genuine excitement about the potential career advancement made him an ideal candidate for the position. Jake's preparation for the in-person interview required him to take time off from his current job and arrange additional childcare for Emma, sacrifices that demonstrated his commitment to pursuing the opportunity despite the personal costs involved. His research into Meridian Technologies revealed an innovative company with values that aligned with his own interests in environmental sustainability and technological advancement. The interview process allowed Jake to showcase the leadership skills, work ethic, and integrity that had impressed Catherine during their brief encounter, while also demonstrating technical knowledge and problem-solving abilities that exceeded the interviewing team's expectations. His questions about the company's culture, growth plans, and employee development opportunities showed the kind of forward-thinking approach that successful organizations valued. Jake's obvious surprise at the salary and benefits package offered by Meridian reflected his realistic understanding of his current market value and his gratitude for an opportunity that seemed almost too good to be true. However, his questions about job responsibilities and performance expectations demonstrated that he understood the position would require earning the compensation through excellent work, rather than simply accepting it as good fortune. The interviewing team's unanimous recommendation to hire Jake was based entirely on his qualifications and character, with no awareness of Catherine's role in identifying him as a candidate. Their enthusiasm for bringing him aboard reflected genuine recognition of his potential value to their organization, rather than any external pressure or influence. Jake's acceptance of the position created a sense of pride and hope that he hadn't experienced since before his divorce, providing him with confidence about his ability to create a better future for Emma, while also validating his belief that hard work and integrity would eventually be rewarded with better opportunities. Jake's transition to his new position at Meridian Technologies exceeded his most optimistic expectations, providing not just financial stability, but professional satisfaction and growth opportunities that he had never imagined possible. The substantial salary increase allowed him to move Emma to a better apartment in a safer neighborhood with excellent schools, eliminating the financial stress that had dominated their lives for 3 years. The comprehensive health insurance package provided by Meridian eliminated Jake's anxiety about medical expenses and allowed him to schedule preventive care appointments that he had been postponing due to cost concerns. Emma's access to better pediatric care and dental services represented a fundamental improvement in their quality of life that Jake had dreamed about, but never expected to achieve so quickly. More significantly, Jake's new colleagues and work environment exposed him to technologies, business practices, and career possibilities that broadened his understanding of what he might achieve with the right opportunities and continued professional development. The culture at Meridian encouraged learning and advancement, providing educational benefits and mentorship programs that could accelerate his career growth. Jake's natural leadership abilities and problem-solving skills quickly impressed his supervisors and colleagues, leading to additional responsibilities and projects that demonstrated his potential for further advancement within the organization. His integrity and work ethic made him a valued team member, whose contributions were recognized and rewarded with increasing trust and autonomy. Emma's adjustment to their improved circumstances included enrollment in a better school district, participation in extracurricular activities that had been financially impossible in their previous situation, and a sense of security and optimism about the future that reflected the dramatic changes in their family's prospects. Her academic performance and social development improved noticeably as financial stress was eliminated from their household. Jake's growing confidence and professional success began attracting attention from other companies and headhunters who recognized his potential and offered even better opportunities, creating options and leverage that he had never possessed during his years of financial struggle. His value in the job market increased dramatically as his skills and reputation developed within the technology industry. The transformation in Jake's life circumstances was so dramatic and positive that he occasionally wondered whether his good fortune was too remarkable to be entirely coincidental, but his focus remained on proving worthy of the opportunities he had received, rather than questioning their origins. Catherine's decision to reveal her role in Jake's career transformation came 6 months after he had started at Meridian Technologies, when his success and obvious happiness convinced her that their relationship could evolve beyond secret benefactor and unknowing recipient. Her approach was carefully planned to minimize Jake's potential embarrassment while allowing them to develop a genuine friendship based on mutual respect and shared values. The revelation occurred during a company event where Catherine appeared as a guest speaker, providing her with a natural opportunity to encounter Jake in his professional environment and observe how he had thrived in the position she had helped create for him. Her presence at Meridian as an investor and board member explained her knowledge of the company while allowing her to approach Jake without revealing the full extent of her involvement in his hiring. Jake's recognition of Catherine created a moment of confusion and surprise as he processed the connection between the stranded woman he had helped at the gas station and the prominent venture capitalist speaking to his company. The coincidence seemed impossible until Catherine's careful explanation revealed how his kindness had motivated her to learn about his circumstances and create opportunities for him to succeed. Catherine's revelation that she had orchestrated his job opportunity was presented as gratitude for his help rather than charity, emphasizing how his character and abilities had impressed her and made him worthy of the opportunities she had been able to provide. Her explanation focused on his qualifications and potential rather than his previous financial struggles, preserving his dignity while acknowledging her role in opening doors. Jake's initial reaction to learning about Catherine's intervention was complex, involving gratitude, embarrassment, and concern about whether his success was genuine or simply the result of wealthy patronage. Catherine's patient explanation of how his performance and achievements at Meridian were entirely his own helped him understand that her assistance had provided opportunity rather than unearned success. The conversation that followed Catherine's revelation allowed both of them to explore the nature of their connection and the potential for a friendship that transcended their different circumstances and the unusual way they had met. Catherine's respect for Jake's character and Jake's appreciation for Catherine's generosity created a foundation for mutual understanding and genuine relationship. Most importantly, Catherine's revelation included her observation that Jake's kindness and integrity represented qualities that were rare in her business world, and that their friendship had reminded her of values that were more important than financial success or professional achievement. The friendship that developed between Jake and Catherine evolved into something far more meaningful than a simple patron-beneficiary relationship, creating mutual benefits that enriched both of their lives in unexpected ways. Catherine's wealth and connections provided Jake with opportunities and security, while Jake's authenticity and grounded perspective offered Catherine insights and relationships that her success had made difficult to find. Jake's continued success at Meridian Technologies and his subsequent career advancement validated Catherine's initial assessment of his potential, while also proving that her assistance had been investment in genuine capability rather than misplaced charity. His promotion to Regional Facilities Director and his recognition as Employee of the Year demonstrated that his achievements were based on merit rather than external influence. Catherine's involvement in Jake and Emma's lives became that of a trusted friend and mentor, rather than a distant benefactor, with their relationship growing to include regular dinners, family activities, and collaborative involvement in charitable projects that reflected their shared values about helping others who faced challenges similar to those Jake had overcome. Emma's relationship with Catherine provided her with a successful female role model and mentor who could offer guidance about education, career possibilities, and personal development that complemented Jake's parenting, while exposing her to opportunities and perspectives that broadened her understanding of what she might achieve in her own life. The charitable foundation that Catherine and Jake established together focused on helping single parents and working families overcome financial obstacles that prevented them from achieving their potential, using Catherine's resources and Jake's experience to create practical programs that addressed real needs in their community. Jake's story became an inspiration within Catherine's professional network, demonstrating how character recognition and strategic assistance could create life-changing opportunities for deserving individuals, while also challenging assumptions about success, worthiness, and the arbitrary nature of economic circumstances that determined people's opportunities. Catherine's friendship with Jake provided her with perspective on the importance of authentic relationships and the satisfaction that came from using wealth to create positive change in individual lives, rather than simply accumulating more financial success or social status. The gas station where their friendship had begun became a symbol for both of them, of how small acts of kindness could create ripple effects that transformed lives in ways that no one could predict, and how genuine connections between people could transcend differences in circumstances and create lasting value that exceeded any financial transaction. Their partnership proved that successful relationships could be built on mutual respect and shared values regardless of differences in wealth or social status, and that the most meaningful investments were often those made in human potential rather than financial instruments.